Be honest. You're listening because you know we say some wacky shit. Listener discretion advised.
Oh, Mr. Fellows, you think the world is ending. I rejoice 3 billion.
Close your eyes, find your center, cause these folks are going there. Taboo topics are back on the table.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm LaJohn.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Matt, and welcome back to the Going There podcast. Today's episode is one that really encompasses the rest of the topics because it's all about mental health. And we're not just going to talk about mental health from a clinical or therapist standpoint. We're going to talk about it from a personal standpoint because really, that's what it's all about. Mental and physical health are important and they're tied into each other. And I think finally we're seeing the dawning of the age where people understand it, respect it, and the stigma is going away. So let's help that stigma fade away even faster. LaJohn, who's with us in the studio today?
Matt, today we have the wonderful, the amazing, the beautiful, the universally talented Olivia Queener. If I say she's a great friend of mine, that would be selling it too short. Beyond a great friend of mine, a wonderful love of mine. And Olivia Queener, like all of us, has had some experiences in life that that can tie into our topic today. As much as I want to say I'm grateful for her experiences, I also wish, just like all of us, some of our experiences never took place. We truly don't know until you walk into somebody else's shoes, and hopefully she can enlighten us and educate us on things that we may think we have an idea, but we don't know shit.
Olivia, thanks so much for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm embarrassed now.
No.
I'm good. I'm good. I was nervous, but I'm now know that I'm with family, so I'm good now.
That's absolutely right. We've adopted you whether or not you wanted us to, and we're dysfunctional. What I learned about you recently is that you are a military veteran, which is an accomplishment in and of itself for anybody in the armed forces, but also you're a woman of color, which just makes it that much more difficult, I can imagine.
Yeah, and what's funny is that they don't tell you that part. My father was in, so I always saw like a strong black man, inside the military force.
And
then
you guys were in the Navy simultaneously?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Actually, like for our last year, like the last 2 years, Daddy was coming in and I actually retired him. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. Get the fuck out. I can handle it from here. America's safe. Okay.
And like literally like the traditional thing is called I have the watch. And the words are I have the watch. You can go to sleep now. I have the watch. And it was, it's time tight.
That's beautiful.
So when I asked the strong black woman that I saw when I joined the military, is it different for a black woman? She looked at me dead in the eye and said, no. And I said, she is lying her tail off.
Do you think she did that because she's like, if I tell you, you need to learn this? Or was it you're on your own?
No, I think it was literally the old black woman stamina on mental health and what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be the strong, whatever comes at us, we're just supposed to just take it. Whatever dart, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cuss. I'm a sailor at heart. Whatever bullshit you want to just lay on a woman of color, you just see strength in that, they can handle it. Yeah, this is bullshit if I had to deal this, if this was going to, I'm sorry, Becky. I always call Becky. This would be tragic if it goes to her. But since it's a black woman, you can handle this, you can embrace it. That's how we view like mental health. That's how we view our lives. And I think as that moment, when I looked at that woman and asked her, this 50-year-old woman who's been in the military, the same military, the Navy that my father served in for, at this time, she probably been in 15 years. She was a senior chief. She was high ranking. And she said, no, there's no difference at all. She lied. She lied to protect me. She lied to protect our heritage, to protect what we considered our strength, we considered as a black woman, and I have considered as myself, this is our voice. When I look at that and I look at myself in that situation, if I were that woman and my daughter were to ask me that same question, no, it's going to be hard. It's going to fucking suck. But you know what? You can do it. And you can't do it just because you're a Black woman. You're not doing this because you're strong. You're doing this because it's embodied in you from birth that you can bring life and you can make this situation work. Not because you're Black, just because you're a human being on earth, period.
As time has gone on, have you appreciated the lie, though?
I appreciate the lie at the time. Because at the time, I needed the lie. I needed to be able to play the game.
First of all, did you ever say, "Oh my God, Becky, look at her butt. It is like so big"?
Oh my God, like all the time.
So, I mean, I'm assuming this would have been 90s?
Yeah, it was like my earliest start. So I think I joined around 97.
What I was going to say was you probably had kind of like the overlap with your dad. He's leaving as you're coming in.
Yes, Daddy was leaving.
I think there was a generational thing just within, for Black females, for women in general in the military. You were also at a turning point. And so from how you said it, I guess I respect where that woman was coming from. Societally, the burden is heaviest on women of color, right?
Mm-hmm.
As in, white men are at the top of the totem pole, and then you have white women, and then you have people of color, and then women of color.
And then queer women of color.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
No, true.
Making a rise.
And then
yes.
trans.
And then
Yeah.
trans, yes.
So the point is, it's
And
like,
somewhere on the middle.
and
Not
like-
the middle, the bottom.
Yeah.
Scrape.
but like you said, you're expected to be stronger. It's kind of like we expect the people working in the basement of this company to work the hardest. And the people at the top, we just need to manage the
Right,
money.
exactly.
It's like if Martha Stewart gets in trouble and reprimanded, it's cruel and unusual punishment because she's not used to it,
Right.
which
Right.
is kind of fucked. That's also something that we are like, well, I can handle this because you're always shitting on me.
Yeah, that's
Right.
fucked up.
Fuck that
it's
shit.
Like, it's like you're just a trauma after trauma. Like, you know what? This
Oh well, that's our
You know
trauma
what?
boy.
Right.
That's our trauma girl.
this wasn't as bad as last week, you know?
Right.
Did you have to do any tours overseas?
I'm very proud. I did 14 years in the service. I served as a hospital corpsman. I'm a Fleet Marine Field Force corpsman, which means that I'm out there with Marines 24/7. That means you're a green side corpsman. There's two sides of corpsman. There's blue side and there's green side. And if you really were like a real corpsman, you know, there's hospital side too. But we don't talk about that side. So there's green side, blue side, and hospital side. And I did my 14 years. Out of my 14, I did 13 with Marines. And I was a green side corpsman. One tour in Iraq and one tour in Kuwait.
Did you see any action, or were you pretty much, because of what your role was, were you kind of removed?
No, you wish that you were removed. I saw more than I like, and I don't want to talk about that.
That's completely understandable.
I
And I
appreciate
appreciate
that.
you being honest. My dad joined the Navy in 1969, I think, to avoid essentially getting drafted to Vietnam. And because he was the only guy in his entire ship who knew how to type, he went from being in the real shit deck to working in the captain's office, being able to use a private bathroom.
Right.
So my dad,
That's crazy.
my dad, he had so many friends who joined up with him, like, we'll be on the ship. And they all ended up boots on the ground in Nam.
And that's something totally, you don't sign up for boots on the ground. Like
Right.
when I signed up matter of fact, I didn't even sign up to be in the Navy. The Navy didn't even want me at first. It took me a year and a half to get in the Navy because I had a GED and I had 2 children. I originally wanted to be a Marine, but the recruiter in the Marine office said I had to wait like 2 years for my kids to be adopted and something. I was like,
Whoa.
yeah, whatever.
Like,
Coast
look,
Guard.
Demi Moore already signed up.
Right,
You're good.
like, we've got over that hump.
GI
Right,
Becky.
like, right.
Yeah, that was a great movie. By the time you're coming out, they're just now starting to accept and respect PTSD.
No.
No?
I'm going to tell you this. I got out in 2012 in the military, and it was one of the hardest decisions I had to make. At the time, I was getting a divorce. Of course, I want to keep a job that's going to keep me 24/7, right? Like, I'm going to have stability, income, all that. The last command that I was at, I was bullied to the points that I couldn't even breathe every day. And it was because the head of my command that I was in, this small little community that I was in, was actually friends with my ex-husband at the time. And he heard from my ex-husband's side of the divorce. So now I'm under his leadership who heard this side of the divorce. And this man, I promise, tortured me every way he possibly could.
Wow.
But I would not let him get me. And I'm even surprised I'm even talking about this.
You know, your personal experience is, at least in the larger context of this conversation, more important than any facts I have. But what I was going to say was, after we went back into Iraq and Afghanistan and everything in the early 2000s, post 9/11, soldiers started coming back and they started finally recognizing PTSD. And PTSD obviously does not only apply to military.
Of course, military.
But they were finally starting to go, these guys are coming back. We're starting to see some trends here before, because mental health, there just wasn't a lot of respect for it. It's like, be a man. Your father and your father's father and his father, they all fought in war. You know, they all lost limbs and they're all good. No, you know, there's the physical ailments, and then there's obviously the mental part, which is probably even, I think, is way more on the mental side. But at least from a societal standpoint, they started to recognize it.
No, it also is evident of like people who are supposed to be on the same team, literally for your country, are also fighting at each other because they're not strong enough mentally.
Right.
I mean, who is this third party who's choosing to like take sides like in
you
high
don't get
school?
a psych test to go into the military.
That's an issue.
But the psych test is not to help counsel, it's help to,
Well,
kill.
also, if I guess you might be like, well, I guess I can see the other side, and maybe instead of
Right.
fighting and murdering, we should just like
What?
talk and
Bin Laden
What?
seems
have
like a
some
cool
empathy.
guy.
Yeah.
Have we ever had coffee?
I don't even know you. Sit down. Like, do you have brothers and sisters?
Exactly.
And to be honest, selfishly, we'd be fucked if people didn't join the military. So it's kind of
Exactly.
like a...
Yes.
Will we really? Because then again,
Yeah.
I mean, but
Well, if
it
the
also-
whole world adopted
right,
it, sure.
right. But that's what I'm saying. It stems from the top, or from the beginning, if you will, as far as who's in control of the shit. Because of the people who are running, or who are pushing the buttons in regards to the military and war and things like that. If they actually took the time to use the sense that we're hoping that they had, we wouldn't be in these situations in the first place, right? We would like to hope, at least.
If we suddenly are like, look, we're a peaceful society, we're Switzerland, we're neutral, we're whatever, that doesn't stop people from going, well, they're vulnerable, let's fuck them up. China, I mean, we have enemies who want to see us fail. All right, let's go off that, because I don't want to piss off the armed forces, because I have a lot of respect for it.
And I don't even say it's their fault. It's
not their
it's
fault.
not their fault.
It's a machine.
No, it's not the people.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
It's the 1%.
It's the
as
1%.
it is
It's the
most of our
machine that's
shit.
been going on for 3,000 years.
Yeah.
It's J.P.
The
Morgan.
patriarchy. Yeah, J.P. Morgan Chase.
Yeah, Rockefeller and Carnegie and all
Well,
those guys.
like we were
Buy
talking
GameStop.
about, Wag the Dog the other day. It's like, let's sell the war to make money. I mean, wars are not just about like right and wrong.
It's all about money.
All right, Olivia, before we get too deep into things, for our musical guest of this episode, we have Parker Silzer. He attended Brown University, and at Brown University, he studied everything from classical orchestration to electronic instrument building, earned the Ron Nelson Award for Excellence in Music Composition. How about that? Right, so Parker splits his time between New York City and LA, where he works as a freelance engineer, songwriter, and producer. And you can also catch him on tour with Sony recording artist Kitten. Thank you so much for the sounds. Great stuff, my man. Enjoy.
Okay, we have a guest speaker who we are going to be patching in. Her name is Mandy Kirsch. She is a licensed counselor from Akron Family Institute, and she's going to talk with us a little bit today from the therapist side. This isn't free therapy, just so you guys know.
We're all chipping in
Yeah.
to pay.
We tricked her. Mandy, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me on here. It's really an honor because I have such a passion for mental health. So I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Give us a snapshot of your background.
Yeah, so I have been working in mental health for the past 9 years, which is crazy to think about. I went to Akron for my graduate degree, and then I started working at nonprofits. And then I just got into this private practice where I'm now part owner and I'm an independently licensed counselor. And I used to just work with kids, but kids, teens, and young adults typically is who I'm working with now.
And the reason I thought Mandy would be a great guest, because not only is she candid and very human and friendly and just understands this topic, but I think when most people think therapists, they think, they think Freud sitting in the corner with his glasses just analyzing you. And she is obviously not that, but also mostly has a background working with younger people. And really, that's where mental health needs to start. So my parents put me in therapy as a kid, but it wasn't real therapy. It was church therapy. And let me tell you, that's a problem. because I'm not kidding. I was told multiple times, Matt, when you do that, that makes God sad.
No.
Do you know how damaging that is to a kid? And I'm not asking for pity here. Well, give me a little bit of pity. But yeah, can we do
God's sad now.
Can we do the Full House when Michelle would pout and the audience would go, oh.
I'll be the one guy in the audience. Man, fuck that shit.
Yeah. Cut it out. So
I really like being on this show. You guys are just hilarious. I love it already.
We're our own biggest fans. So I want to say we all have our struggles. We all have heartache. We all have pain. Olivia has definitely experienced a lot, and we've only touched on it in the first part of this episode. She certainly has experienced not just the horrors of war, but also discrimination within the military for multiple reasons, and being a woman of color only adds to all of that. Olivia, I think especially with Mandy on the phone, because she, I'll say the wrong thing. I'll make another Becky joke, but I feel like Mandy might have something more intelligent to say. Let's pick up your story where we left off. So you're out of the military. They don't do exit therapy.
I will say for the military, they will do group out therapy for you. It's more in a classroom setting. It's more like your ticket to go home. You got to check off this box to go home.
Yeah.
You go through your,
it's an exit interview.
Class.
Yeah.
I did that. You know? Yeah, they do stuff
Are
like that.
you sane? And you're like, yes. And they're like, perfect.
Right,
That's what we needed you to say.
Yeah.
Totally great after this.
Can you breathe? Let me see you. All right, that's good.
Here's your DVD of Top Gun.
Right, exactly. You're good.
What's life been like since then? What's life been like over the last 10 years?
So when I first got out, it was hard. At 2 years, I could not find a job. People saw the word military, and even though I didn't have the diagnosis of PTSD or anything like that, or it's even on the application process, they immediately assumed that because you came from this background that you had these issues. It was the first actual interview I had. It was 2 years afterwards. It was a dental assistant office, and all I was doing is answering the phone and scheduling appointments. That was it. And she was like, well, with your background, are you going to have any problems with, I don't know, anger and things like that? I'm like,
whoa.
Wow.
No. I'm sitting down, really? You haven't even met me yet.
Wow.
But in her defense, and I will have to backtrack, I did get out in 2011, but I got out because I was actually facing charges, because I was actually going to try to kill my husband because of a PTSD issue that was not addressed at the time. You feel me? It was everything they told you textbook-wise that you're going to see this, you're going to see this, you're going to see this, happen in that moment.
How did the military, I know you said they made you do a group classroom sort of exit interview essentially, but there's a lot of stigma about the military and mental health. Did they discourage you or encourage you to go see a counselor after your time?
No.
No. Okay.
During the military, no, you were not allowed to see counseling. You were not allowed to see mental health. Yes, it was encouraged with a head nod, yes. But looking you dead straight in the eye, if you do this, it is deemed as weakness. It is deemed as you can't handle your home. If you can't handle yourself, how the hell are you going to handle my troops? How can I leave you alone? You're responsible for a hell of a lot more than just you and these weapons that you have in front of you. And are you going to kill my family? Pretty much is how it boils down to.
That's so backward thinking, though. You would think that they'd want you to be on your best mental game. Right.
So fast forward to the veteran side, I've had the most help. And it's been amazing. Like I went through
Through the VA?
through the VA, through veteran, and it was like, where were y'all? There's a whole like military sexual trauma unit. What?
Wow.
I didn't know this was available. There's an LGBT unit. The veteran office offers so much on the back end side that you have to wonder, like, if you didn't come in on the precursory side, would you have to offer all this?
And it's almost kind of messed up because it's like these amazing services are here available for you. I mean, right there. And it's almost like they're saying, yeah, we know you're going to need this shit.
Right.
So let's just go ahead and put this over here to the side after you do everything that we need you to do. But don't you worry, we got you on the back end. Let's go ahead and kick some ass first.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like damage control.
I'm fortunate. My son had committed suicide, and even though I was going through depression and all these things, that I needed to change the life that I had in front of me, and that's why I even seeked out the sources that were there. I didn't even know that they were available until it came to a point in my life where I had no other choice but to change.
Something has to change.
Yeah. And that's why I love the VA for that side, because it's like, well, if you asked me about my military service maybe less than 2 years ago, I've been like, what? No, I didn't serve. Now I will proudly tell you I served 14 years, U.S. Navy, veteran, hospital corpsman, pharmacy tech, go for you every mile with the Marines right there. I can tell you that's my call sign. My call sign was Doc. I was Smurfette. I'm Doc. You feel me? Smurfette because I was blue and short.
Yeah.
And Doc because
yeah. When I said person of color, I meant blue.
Yeah. Right.
I think it's government thinking, because I thought of something. I had a meeting with a big county in a different state when we were trying to pitch them safety training. And the woman who came down was a government employee who oversaw risk. And the thing is, they allot for essentially a certain amount of risk, because it is, if we don't hit these numbers, we got to lay people off. So we need our job security. So she started saying, we need to create essentially remedial or follow-up training for people who've had accidents. And I'm like, yeah. Except you need to train them to not have accidents in the first place. Training them after the fact is kind of putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
Right.
Well, you're trying to kind of keep money out of our pockets. So let's just slow down for a second.
For the first half of the meeting, I thought she was just dumb and not getting it. By the end, I was dumb and not getting it. Oh, I get it. You want people to have accidents. Cool.
Yeah. And you know what it was reminding me of? Mandy, you said you would think that they would want you to be on your best mental game.
Right.
But it seems like there's this shame in mental health and therapy. Olivia, you were saying it looks like weakness. But yeah, it's like if you're a pilot, you have to get in a certain number of flying hours. Like, why can't you see it like that and say, as somebody who's mentally strong, you need to get a certain number of hours of
Therapy
mental
hours
therapy training.
I remember a time that a guy had came in, and he has said he is having these problems, that he has mental health issues, and he wanted to kill himself, this, that, and the third. And I remember the guy running over, handing him his 9 mil and saying, here, you can use this. And I remember laughing. And the part that hurts me the most right now is because I laughed with them. Because the part of me was like, this is wrong, but you're right. Yeah, use this. We got this on us all the time. You're faking what? But it's not. And to see the reverse, the flip of it is like, really?
Yeah. But you know what?
Wow.
This is my opinion. Don't hold that against yourself, because you're talking about norms and culture and conditioning.
Right.
And like LeJohn, you played sports, I played sports, man. Remember being in the locker room during football practice or something? The adrenaline's hot and you say and do stupid shit you would never do in the real world.
That's what I'm fucking saying, man. And I'm sorry that I said stupid shit.
Yeah. No, seriously, man. Up in that moment, in the culture of the moment and everything, and what this environment is supposed to make me feel and make me do and make me think.
I'm sorry, if you're in the military and you don't act a certain way, you're going to be ostracized.
You're going to be ostracized. Oh my gosh.
Right. If you had said to him, like, no, I don't want this. Like, what are you talking about?
Can you imagine the backlash?
Or go and report him.
Oh my goodness.
That's like the law enforcement turning on each other. It's like, oh, he's one of them.
Oh.
My last duty station, my leader to me, he leaned over in my ear. He said to me, he said, most people have depression and they just get the fuck over it.
God.
You just need to get the fuck over
Hey,
it.
that's how it
He
works.
leaned over me and that's it. He said, you need to just get the fuck over
As
it.
he was strangling
And
a cat.
I promise you
Right.
on God, I said, there is nothing in life right now that's keeping me alive other than at the time, it was my 4 children at home, cooking. That's the only thing keeping me alive day to day.
As Captain America famously said, if you get killed, walk it off. that is just like such.
That's exactly what they want you to do. They're just get over it. That's just such a nonsensical statement. Let me just work on getting over my mental health issues. Let me just stop that right there. Right? It's hard.
So Mandy, as Olivia's telling her story, she's talking about, it unfortunately came to a breaking point. When you're in the fog, you don't realize that you're in the fog, right?
Right. And I think that there's a lot of people I know that I've worked with, and for myself personally too, where I've been, not myself, didn't even recognize I wasn't myself. And then, I've had a friend tell me like, hey, are you all right? You're not acting, okay. But, then you compare that to the military and people expect you to be in that fog and be okay while in that fog. I couldn't imagine where for me, as a civilian, I'm able to go say, you know what, you're right. I should probably go talk to someone. Olivia, you didn't have that option.
Oh, no.
So Mandy, what are some of these like trigger warnings that you notice that you've been experiencing over the years?
Mostly it's little things that kind of build up. It's my house isn't as clean as it normally is. And I don't care. I'm going to let my dishes sit for a week and that's fine. It's little things that build up. I'm not sleeping. I'm a little bit more fidgety. I'm maybe snapping and taking things out on people that I normally wouldn't. Maybe I'm getting some nightmares. Maybe I'm isolating more than I have been. It's those little build up things that don't seem like a huge deal to you. But after some time, it all adds up. And before you know it, you're like, shit, I'm a mess, Like it just builds. And sometimes those trigger warnings aren't obvious. And then there's some obvious ones like, I can't stop thinking, or I'm starting to get really weird thoughts, so there's some more obvious ones, but typically it's these little tiny things that you start doing that aren't like you.
If you have the flu really bad, it seems impossible to remember what being healthy was.
Right.
I think same thing with mental health, which is when you're in it, you just think this is normal, right?
Right. And then you get angry and defensive when someone tries to call you on it.
Oh,
You're like,
yes,
what? I'm
yes,
being normal. What are you talking about? This is my normal.
Or I'm just going through a phase, or
Yeah,
I'm just having a bad
right.
day. I'm just having a bad year.
And military aside, I think that my family in Ohio is very adverse to therapy. Like it's just very looked down upon. And, I was in New York for 10 years and did therapy, and it was normalized, and it's just still very stigmatized, at least within my circle of relatives here. So I think that it's really hard if you do need help to speak
definitely.
up
Right.
and not be judged.
I remember as a kid, I was pulled from the house because it was an incident that happened, and we had to do court-ordered therapy. And my mother said, as long as you sit here in this room and you don't say a word, we will be okay. She said, so sit here in this room for this hour, and the counselor would ask us questions. I wanted to divulge my entire heart. This was my time to tell my story.
Right.
But I knew that if I went against this, I would lose my entire family. So I don't know. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I get the
Yeah.
silence.
That's just so many examples of how many factors are against speaking on it and talking about it and everything. I mean, here's an example we talk about with your mom. I mean, it's mom.
Yeah, right.
Okay, and then you got the bravado, and when you talk about or the tough perspective when it comes down to the military, oh, just get over this shit. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's just all these factors that are just pounding on the concept of, hey, it's okay to talk about it, and that's what has to suck, being muffled by people and by entities that you actually respect and want to be there for,
Right.
Damn, it has to suck.
Right. Well, and then to kind of get that message from your mom, like, these aren't the good guys to talk to. Like, I want to talk about this, but it's that message of, these people are going to take you away from me, so what are you supposed to think about mental health with that type of thinking,
And then to make it even worse, what if you can't even talk to mom?
Right.
Damn, let's talk about that.
It came to that point. Well, when, it came to my son leaving, I couldn't talk to my mom about this. She didn't know about a child being gone. All our kids are here.
Sure.
It's generational issues. The boomers, I think especially, Mandy, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like the boomers are the most adverse to getting help.
I agree with that.
I would like to know the history of that, because not necessarily in the 50s, but before that, if you wanted to divorce your wife, you could just put her in a mental institution and that would be okay.
It still happens.
And it still happens. So,
Yeah.
but I'm saying the stigma of being wary of mental health providers and institutions.
So can I
makes
address
sense.
that?
Yes.
Yeah, please do.
When I was in the service, I would sit there, I was like, oh my God, they could lock me up at any minute, because my ex-husband had me locked up at any minute. He would get upset and I would be locked up. Like, he would just say, oh, she's having this pseudocidal adulations. He would just say the magic words because you're medical and you know what the fuck to say.
Right.
And all of a sudden I'm here because they have to keep you. And it being military, they're going to stick by the letter of the law. So I had to be there at least 72 hours. And I had no voice. I couldn't talk. I was a grown woman, independent in my own. And still, my fucking husband still had a voice over me.
Yeah.
In the same military that we both signed up in.
That's so anger inducing for me to hear. It's just insane to me that because he said you had a suicidal
He
ideation,
said-
they didn't tell you that you didn't say that to them, but they still kept you. And that there's so much wrong with that. There's so much wrong with that.
It was. And I appreciate you saying that. And I appreciate that now that I can see that.
LaJohn, what you were saying, it really goes back to there would be less need for, I guess, kind of like intensive. There would be less medications needed, less resources needed because we could talk. Do you think I could ever talk to my parents about what was going on deep inside me unless I was able to relate it to, I don't know, Noah's Ark or some fucking shit? And I've addressed that with them in modern times. I'm like, I essentially experienced spiritual abuse, but I didn't know how to even use that word until I went to therapy.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I think everyone needs to be in therapy anyway.
Right.
So go to Mandy at Mandy.
Yeah, shirts, shoes, pants, therapy.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that there's that stigma that, Matt was talking about earlier. And I think that is being brought up now, and that especially it sounds like in the military, but also in the boomers world and just the world
The
to
shrink,
today.
the
There's
old head
still,
shrinker
there's
idea.
the shrink. They're going to shrink your mind. They're going to label you, and you're going to have this really bad experience, and you're going to feel, so tiny. And that's actually the opposite of what therapists today want things to be like for you when you come into their office. One of the things that I think is so important to recognize is that your therapist is not perfect. We go through our shit too, and that we're not here to be on a high horse judging. If people kind of recognize that for the most part, most therapists want to be there to walk through it with you, not be there to judge you about all the shit you've done. But at the same time, there's still that worry, that stigma of like, what are they going to diagnose me with, or what's wrong with me? And it's nothing. You're going through life, man. It's just you had some trauma happen, like we all do.
Exactly. It's not even to say, for instance, if you grew up in a household where you could talk to mom, you can talk to dad, and it was so fantastic, and I can have these great conversations, I can be my absolute self. And it's not even to say if you came up in that environment that you will never need therapy. Well, you were able to talk to your parents, so therefore, how dare you even think that you need to have someone you have to talk to professionally about this shit? But can you imagine if we all grew up in that household?
As a parent, you're not equipped to be everything. You can't be
True.
a teacher and a mom and a dad and a best friend and all these things.
Yeah, too many hats.
Not to mention, because your parents are part of the equation. So, LaJohn, you and I could be best friends and tell each other everything, but if I'm having a problem with you, I need to go talk to somebody objective from an educated standpoint.
Also, why put that all on your friends all the time? Where it's just like, maybe you're like, yo, LaJohn, I can't wait to get pizza. Oh, we're doing therapy? Okay.
LaJohn's disagreeing with me.
I got a fire in my stomach about that shit, man.
Let me ask you this, because this is where I was getting at with you. I'll put my bigot hat on for a minute. No, we talked about in the Black community the kind of like fear and separation from wanting to see doctors. Does that overlap in the mental health?
You better believe it does.
Yeah.
And exactly. And because we can't expose that shit. There's a trust factor or lack thereof. As far as anything outside of the Black community, there's a understanding factor that we pretty much think you'll never get in the first fucking place. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, oh, these people are going to trap me and take all my teeth out and lock me up.
Pretty much, yeah,
and
seriously.
then make a bunch of money on me.
Mandy, how much does a
time in
molar go
prison.
for these
Yeah.
days?
Right.
Oh, it depends on how nice it is,
Yeah. How about that gold one?
That gold one. Woo!
Oh,
Yeah.
no, that's...
But I think that makes such a good point. And there's a lot of families where their family motto is don't talk, don't trust, don't tell anybody anything. Everything that happens at home stays at home. It's such old school thinking, but it's very relevant, in so many different communities where it's like, no, you don't tell people what goes on inside your home. That is not okay.
Then there's that other factor where it's just like, okay, well, what do you call the person who did worse in medical school? Doctor. You still call them doctor.
Right.
Like they still make
Right.
mistakes. And so there's that other fear of even just like messing me up.
Right.
Right. Right. And yeah, I think there's so many people, I can't even tell you how many people come in my office and say, okay, don't judge me. And I'm like giggling inside because I'm like, oh, if you only knew, I have nothing to judge you on. Trust me.
And I've lied to my therapist before, or I've obfuscated.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I've also been like,
We've all done that.
or I've been like, this lady is telling me that I'm good, this, that, and the other, but she doesn't even fucking know.
Right.
You don't even know
right.
me.
Know me. I'm awful.
Therapists are imperfect, but that doesn't mean they're not great at their jobs. And the thing is,
Correct.
as a therapist, if you're completely disconnected, are you really doing your job? The human brain can only handle so much. So you're taking on all of this pain and you're helping these people shoulder it and work through it. Of course, it's going to weigh on you. It doesn't mean you're not good at your job. If you weren't to do that, would you be any good?
I mean, you're a fucking human. How about
Right. Well, and I think too, a lot of therapists are in therapy, and I think that that's a beautiful thing because first of all, we need to know what it's like on the other side. We can't just do as I say, not as I do. The other thing is that if we're not mentally healthy and dealing with our own stuff, how are we going to help everyone else deal with their issues?
Olivia's like, I'm really dealing with shit with my husband. Oh, you have no fucking idea. My husband's way worse than yours.
Like, do you even know what I deal with at home? You
oh
want to
my
talk
God.
about that? No.
If your patients give you cause to need to talk about it in therapy, can you talk about it, or is it patient-client privilege?
When I'm in therapy, I talk about my stuff.
Gotcha.
It's one of those situations where, we all are dealing with our own stuff in our life as well. And so I'm not really going to therapy because I need to deal with what my patients tell me. It's more dealing with my stuff so that I can help everyone else deal with their stuff to the best of my ability. So my stuff isn't blocking everyone else's issues. It's more about that than it is other stuff. But that's a great question because a lot of people do get nervous.
Yeah. You
About
just wanna
are you
put
gonna
that out there.
are you gonna tell everybody what I'm saying? And it's like, no, I promise. Like it's 100% HIPAA covered or confidential here. It's good, I promise.
See, Mandy, do you know why I love that so much? And I'm gonna jump on this real quick.
Yeah.
I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I can't stand it personally when people say my kids come first. My kids come first, and that may sound so fucked up, but let me explain why. How can I be the absolute best for my kids if I don't come first?
Right, exactly.
How can if I'm not
Yes.
if I'm not at my full strength, then how can I even give them a chance to be at their full strength? I gotta come first.
That's a beautiful,
That's
beautiful
beautiful,
thing.
yeah.
It is. And I think that's something where, we talk about self-care as parents, as a therapist, as, humans in general. We think of it as like, oh, I'm going to go take a bubble bath, have a glass of wine, whatever, and really self-care is kind of ugly in a lot of ways. It's like, no, I'm going to go work out even though I don't want to because I know I'm going to feel better later. I'm going to tell my kids that mommy or daddy needs a timeout because I don't want to blow up on my kids. It's
Right.
stuff like
Exactly.
that.
Right.
It's the stuff that you don't want to do that's taking care of yourself. It's going past some of your own boundaries in that way so that you feel your best.
Olivia, I want to ask. So, unfortunately, when you lost your son,
Yeah, we glossed over that, by the way.
Well, I purposely let us touch on it so we can go back. I think
Yeah.
it'll be a little bit easier
Yeah.
once we've touched on it.
definitely.
How long ago was that?
I lost Isaiah Aaron Smith, 2018, I think. Yes, 2018. I think because honestly, My life has been a blur since.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic happens right
and
after,
then
which
there's a
only makes it that
pandemic,
much worse.
Which I'm going to be totally transparent. I didn't notice a pandemic. I was still hurt. You know what I'm saying? I was
Yeah.
still going through my
Yeah.
shit. And then I was like, oh, wait, y'all are going through something too.
Right.
Oh, I can relate. you
Yeah.
know?
Naturally, it's got to be some kind of a tipping point in regards to saying, you know what, something else has to be here for me to get through this.
So I touched on earlier that I'd already suffered from, depression, major depression, all these things, these little labels that they gave me before. But what that really boiled down to, Olivia in life, is that Olivia didn't want to live. Olivia had nothing to live for. And when my son died, I realized Olivia did have something to live for. It was her children. And now that one was gone, what the fuck does Olivia live for? Not that I didn't have any more children to live for. It was just that I don't care. A part of me is gone. It's gone
Right.
forever. It's forever. It'll never be replaced. When I decided that I wanted to live, is that, am I going to live the life that I had before? Which, in truth, your children are a reflection of you. And in my life, if my very soul, my very heart decided, like, you know what? This shit ain't enough. I'm out. What am I showing? So from that point, I had to decide that I could show my son, my daughter, my sons that I have left, my daughter there, that this life is something to live for. But I had to show them something. And I had to find something in me. And when John touched on the fact that, yeah, you live for your kids, you can't.
Yeah.
You cannot live for your kids. You have to live for you. And self-care is ugly. It's disgusting. It's selfish. It's the ugliest shit you don't want to fucking do.
Mm-hmm.
It's that self-care is knowing that if I walk out that door today, I am going to be no good to no fucking buddy. If I don't lay here and sit here in silence at 5:55 in the fucking morning and pray to God that you just have the universe just engulfing me for just 2 seconds so I can give the world just a piece of me for an hour. Because I know this hour is going to cost me. This hour is I probably won't wake up tomorrow. I'll probably be in the bed tomorrow. I'll probably be in the bed for the next week. Because this hour is my soul. And I'm giving my life at this moment. And I know it sounds dramatic, but God, I promise God that I wouldn't do nothing less.
Yeah.
That my life will give honor to my son. Not for my son, not because of my son, because I am my son. Because in that reflection in the mirror has got to show better than what I've been seeing, better than the black woman they've been showing me, better than all the shit that they've been showing me in the world. It's got to be better. And if I can't give the world better, then why the fuck am I here? Why the fuck do I have a mic? Why the fuck do I have a voice? Because I'm the shit. I've tried to kill myself 1,000 times, and guess what? I'm still here. So clearly, I'm the shit.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm so glad I got that out, because that is my soul of why I wanted to be here, or why I even wanted to say anything.
Thank you.
That is beautiful.
You want to talk about fucking bravery? Thank you. That was awesome.
Can you sit back for a second and understand from the outside looking in how hard it has to be? Can you sit back for a second and just try to imagine? Because that's all you can do is try to imagine. Because if you haven't walked in those shoes, damn it, you don't know and you won't know. And guess what? You fucking don't want to know.
You don't want to know,
Right.
and you don't have the right to judge anyone else that's going through their shit.
Yes.
So if someone's sitting there walking you and they had a bad fucking day and all they fucking did was walk in a pile of shit, you fucking and you cry with them for walking through that pile of shit because you don't know that pile of shit. Man.
Yeah.
The only thing we have in life to offer is to be a subject matter expert on ourselves. And I say that because to become a subject matter expert on yourself, you bring light to the world. Because I became a subject matter expert on myself, I'm able to sit here and share to you the greatest being I gave birth to. My son, Isaiah Aaron Smith, my very special earthly stranger. And I didn't need a book. I didn't need pictures. I didn't need my urn outside. I could just do it with my voice and tell you, not even tell you his story, because I don't have it to tell. I just thank you. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
We thank you. That was beautiful.
But it is important to know who you are and come to terms with all of the deep, dark wounds that you have.
It's your responsibility as a human.
It's your responsibility to own them, and in owning them, you forgive them, and then you can live your life.
And sometimes forgiveness looks like peace.
Yeah.
Sometimes forgiveness looks like blocking a number, or sometimes forgiveness looks like, hey, can we have coffee?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I would love to see a day when Olivia stops beating herself up over
Yeah.
the things that she really had no control over. I mean, her story is extremely heartbreaking and unique to her, but there's so many people going through so many things all the time, and everyone's pain is as real to them. When I was going through one of the darkest parts of my life, I was recommended by somebody else to read a book, and it's pretty simple, but it's called The Gift to Listen, The Courage to Hear by Carl Jackson. Have you heard of this, Mandy?
I have not actually heard of that book, but I'm going to look it up. Tell me about it.
So it's very easy to digest, but basically it lays out all of these horrible listening habits that most of us have.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, one of them is co-opting, and I bring that up because I'm a horrible co-opter. LeJohn will be like, man, I had a really rough day, and I'll make it about me.
Oh yeah, that's my thing. See what I just did?
That was good.
Yeah.
You know, my intention isn't to one-up you. It's to say, oh, I understand. I can empathize because here's what happened to me. But the problem is I'm not listening to you.
And I'm certain body gestures and movements and stuff like that have a
It
lot
talked
to do
about
with
active
Yeah,
listening.
yeah.
It talks, and it goes through all of the bad listening habits, and most of us do at least some of it. There's, like one of them is the quick fix, where it's like, you know, I had a really rough day at work, and it's like, well, why don't you just take tomorrow off? It's like, I just wanted to vent. And that's why friends are okay to a point, but after a while, we all bring to the table our bad communication and listening styles. That's why therapy is so freaking important, because you have people who have studied and work on this all the time. And yeah, they're flawed, but goddamn, they're way better than any of our drinking buddies.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and I think that a lot of my friends are counselors, so that's not fair for me to say, but I think that
You just sit around and analyze each other. So you are lusting after your father. That makes a lot of sense.
like, wow, some stuff's going on there, bud, you know, but it's hard though too, because you want to be there to listen to your friends, but most of the time, you know, and as I've said, you know, counselors need a counselor. We need to go to that outside source because you can't analyze yourself. And I think one of the most beautiful takeaways from what Olivia just said was basically just saying you need to know yourself. It's your job to know yourself the best. And I think that, you know, that's such a big deal. And so Matt, knowing that you sometimes are a what was it, a co-opter?
Co-opter.
Yeah, knowing that about yourself is a beautiful thing, because then you can know what you need to work on. And, you know, sometimes you do need that third party to go, hey, what's going on there? You know, are you sure this is something that's not bugging you? You know,
I'm going to give everybody homework. Honestly, it's such a simple read. It's not very long. It's more like a manual on good communication. And I learned so much about myself because I'm reading it, and I went in defensively, like somebody asked me to read this, and I'm reading it. I'm like, oh, goddamn, I do all of this.
Oopsies.
Except for the good stuff.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I really pride myself at, it's being a good communicator. I'm sometimes a horrible listener, but in general, I try to be the best communicator I can. And I owe a lot of it to this book, so I hope this guy's going to start, paying us some money for plugging this in. But honestly, I do strongly recommend it. Again, it's about self-awareness, and that's what we were talking about.
What's the title?
I told you.
Uh-oh.
The Gift to Listen, The Courage to Hear.
The Gift to Listen.
By Karl Marx. No, I'm kidding. Karl Jackson.
Yeah.
I want these episodes to live on far past the pandemic, but obviously the pandemic has just exploited how bad the mental health situation in our country is. And Mandy, what has been your experience with what's been going on recently and kind of the lack of resources?
like the last year or so has been a whirlwind. It's been crazy because we had to all of a sudden go from seeing people only in office. Insurance actually before this didn't pay for teletherapy. So all of a sudden insurance is now, saying, okay, we'll pay for teletherapy. And then we have to figure out, how do we get teletherapy going and how do we do this stuff? So that in itself was just one big project already. But then, You have people who are then losing jobs. You have people who are staying home with their kids all day. Like, what? Kids are hard, man. Kids
The
are hard.
divorce business is also
The
doing
divorce,
super well.
yes, it is. I mean,
My mother-in-law works for a divorce attorney, and I mean, they
They're
don't have
slammed.
enough people.
Wow.
No shit.
yeah,
No, it's sad.
Wow.
sad. And it's also then, parents have to become teachers as well. It's just, all of these things happen. But then, we kind of had an interesting downside where people weren't really coming in or calling in as much. And we were like, wow, isn't everyone going through a tough time? What's happening? And all of a sudden, within the last month or so, we've been getting this influx of people wanting to come in. And I think people are starting to they got through the holidays, they got through kind of the biggest slump of everything. And then now they're like, holy shit, look back at this year. I need help. And I think now is when people are starting to feel that. So we've had people calling in crisis, and we're, just for reference, this is the end of January that we're taping this. We're booked to March.
Damn.
Yeah. And I've called other practices to say, hey, are you guys overbooked? Because we need a place to refer people who are calling in, and they're like, no, we're booked till March too. Like, we don't know.
Go down to Jake's Pub. The bartender
Exactly,
is the
yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Right. Only open till 10, I thought. No.
He gives great advice, but sometimes it's hard to hear through his mask.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it's more of a sad tale and kind of a common one, which is people wait till they're at that crisis point
Yes.
to call and try to get help. And that's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're like, I'm on a ledge and I need some help. And they're like, great, we have someone maybe in March.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You're in the queue.
You're in queue.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like it makes you feel a little sick inside from the from our business perspective, because we want obviously to get everybody in at the time they want, but we're also, shameless plug, we're also trying to hire for counselors. So if anyone is a counselor out there looking for a job, let me know.
I actually have a psychology degrry. I might put myself in
There
here.
you go, LeJohn. All right. Yeah, we'll chat later. We'll chat.
Give him some therapy, actually. His
But,
fascination with boobies, butts, and wieners needs to be talked through.
No, it doesn't.
We do have a sex therapist at our office, so we can.
Do
we
you
can
have
get
a sex
there.
therapist?
We do. It's just one of those things where it's like, it's been a hard road for everyone, but we were already, kind of slammed before the pandemic started. But then now, I've been reading articles about this, and they're saying that there's been 3 times more anxiety from 2019 to 2020, and 4 times more people that are depressed from 2019 to 2020. Also, I don't know if you guys saw this in the Beacon the other day, but they said that alcohol sales have been up. And I know you guys did a show on alcoholism already, which was great, but that's just another whole issue. People are not turning to healthy coping skills or turning to booze, which, if you want to have a drink now and then, fine. But, we're going up so high in alcohol sales. It's a little concerning.
When you say it's too late, it made me think about the blessing and the curse of the smile when it comes down to mental health. And
Smile, sweetheart.
And what I mean by that is, and I'm certain you already know, how someone can put a smile on their face and give you this perception and this mindset that everything is just going so swell. Everything is great. Everything is fantastic. But behind that smile, there's some hell that they're going through.
If I say, hey, man, how you doing?
Yeah.
What do we say?
Naturally, unconsciously, oh, I'm doing all right.
Doing good.
Doing good.
Getting through.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Could be worse.
No,
Yeah.
and LeJohn, that's such a great point too, because
Yeah,
a lot,
that
and,
really
and like
was.
we talked about earlier, a lot of people don't know that they're going through something until it hits them all at once. And so it's helpful to know and notice, and and I can't say that I haven't done this when a friend said, hey, you doing okay? And I'm like, no, I'm great. What are you talking about? And my voice gets all high pitched, I'm fine. What? But I think that we have to not be as defensive about it and kind of take that seriously too, and just kind of go,
Right.
maybe I should start to look into this a little more. But at the same time, and I don't mean to say it's too late. It's just It's just don't wait so long because we want to be able to help you. But right now, a lot of people, they don't recognize that like you can go to an emergency room. They're not going to necessarily admit you, but they might be able to assess what's going on and then maybe get you into a different resource like a nonprofit a little bit quicker. So there is that option as well. The other thing that I would say is like every place you're calling says that they're booked. Go on to your insurance provider's website, check that out, see if they have some references or some recommendations for you to try out. The other thing too is a lot of people right now out of jobs with the pandemic, you're in the service industry, you're doing all of these different things for yourself, or you own your own business and you don't have insurance plans yet. Whatever the case might be, there's a lot of places that will do fee for service. And they will definitely take a look and see, what's your income level, and we can kind of assess based on and give you a certain number per session.
Will you guys take GameStop stock?
We'll consider it, but no.
Where are some, is that something that you can easily just like Google and find that information online, or is that?
Absolutely. So if you go to for the insurance, you absolutely can just go to your insurance provider's website and
my
type
insurance
in your
provider's website is very out of date. So.
Oh, so frustrating.
But wait. Now, I dig all the resources and everything, and that's fantastic. But isn't that the blessing and the curse of the smile? And now I'm asking an uneducated question, because the person who is going through this, they're showing the world this smile. And at some point, do they start to believe in that same smile and saying, hey, I'm all right, I don't need this shit?
Oh, yes, they do.
Yeah, some people do. And then some people are kind of like, I show everybody how great I am, but inside I'm dying. Inside I am just dying. And so there's some people that do come in and say, no one in my life would ever tell you that I'm depressed because I always seem like I have it together. And those are the scariest type of people to me, because they're one step away from just cracking at some point. Those who do truly believe it, like you said, they don't think that they need help, and then all of a sudden they're drowning underwater. It's awful.
It's romanticized to be strong under duress or under fire, grace under fire. There's that Natalie Cole song, "Smile Though Your Heart Is Breaking." That's been around for decades.
And I can say from a personal standpoint that the times that I've smiled the hardest is when I knew exactly what I was about to do.
When you're in the most pain, you mean?
In the most pain.
Yeah.
I feel like when I decided in my head, like, you know what? I'm not going to be here anymore.
I'm checking out.
That's when I give the most. I don't understand it, but it felt like it just gave the most. I remember in the time in the military, that's the time I became sailor of the quarter. Like the first time I ever did that, I was like outstanding in my presence and my uniform appearance and everything else.
Like a release almost.
It's like a release. Like, you know what? Balls to the walls, fuck it. You don't give a fuck. I'm about to be gone in a second. You ain't got to worry about this no more.
It's kind of like like if you were able to accept yourself, but this is like a short-term acceptance.
Right.
Like a whippet of acceptance.
Like, yeah, you know what? For this 24 hours, I am the shit. Yeah. I don't care if you don't think I'm the shit, but I'm out.
Fucking whip it.
Well,
a whippet of acceptance.
It's that fuck it mode, though. It's so scary. You're like, fuck it, whatever. And then you just put that smile on your face and you're like, everything's great. I'm great. Everything's okay. But inside, that must have been the loneliest time of your life.
Yeah. The other reason I thought Mandy was perfect for this is she also swears like a sailor. So that's what I thought.
I do. I can't help it.
I want to throw my 2 cents in on this because
Please do.
I think this is an important piece to the conversation. What you're talking about is a paint job on a car that the engine is broken. So being positive is a choice when we are capable of making choices for ourselves. Smiling and being positive are not the same thing.
No.
And so that's the problem, is we are so concerned with public image. We are less concerned with personal awareness. I do think it's important to wake up and say, today I'm going to be positive. Yeah, shit's going to happen, but you know what? It's not going to break me. That's not the same as saying, I'm going to smile at everyone, because who gives a shit? It's not about them. It's about you.
It's pretending.
Another word for positivity, maybe a more, because that sounds like it's like a face you're putting on. Would you say like gratitude?
I say comfortable in yourself.
Okay.
Confident. Yeah.
You can show up to work and say, oh man, this day sucks. No one made coffee. Or you can show up to work and be like, I'm going to try to do this today. I'm saying positive in the sense that, you can look at it and say everything sucks, or you can look at it and go, I'm going to make the best of this.
How about
Right.
this?
I'm going to make
Okay.
my own coffee today.
Right.
As a leader in the companies who I've worked for, I've had these conversations with certain individuals. Look, man, this job is what you make of it. If you come in telling yourself your work is going to suck, you're going to prove yourself right. Positivity is a choice for those who have the capability. If you are in a deep, dark depression, you can't just get out of it.
Right.
LaJohn, you talk about this all the time. We all have a choice.
Yep.
I can show up to this podcast and worry about all the things. Oh, man, how long are we going to be doing this?
Why is there no coffee made?
Why is there no coffee
Right.
made? Why do I keep co-opting Joe's stories? Or I can walk in and be like, I'm going to make today good.
Joe's story's my story, too.
So what about the flip side of that? Slightly the flip side of that. And I dig all that, and I actually fully agree with that. However, what about when, like Mandy, how you say, so how you doing today? I'm great. I'm fine. So what about when we say, so how you doing today? And you get the absolute fucking truth. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
right.
how's it going today?
Well,
Man, this is
and then
fucked
what's
up.
so awful in our society is that then people are like, whoa, you actually told me how you were doing today.
But that's about like appropriate context, right?
Right. True.
Like you're not going to sit at the water cooler with your boss and they go, how was your weekend? Well, my wife cheated on me,
And I found out I am sexually attracted to peanut butter. I don't
I
know.
actually will. I'd be like, do tell. Do tell.
Again, there's some good things in this, in the book that I recommended, as well as the one we talked about in a previous episode from Pima Kodrin about
she's great.
taking it off yourself, as in
Yeah.
you're working on you for you, but it's
Right.
not your place to burden other people with it. And that's where I would, what is that?
I just have a thing from Pema Chodron. Like, I just pulled it up at the same, like, you co-opted my thought.
Oh,
Without,
yeah. That's like boring Inception. Okay.
Yeah, boring Inception. Yeah.
So what was the quote? I do want to hear it now.
Okay, well, this quote stood out to me when I was reading that book that you gave me, and it kind of makes me think of when you were talking, Olivia, about being in the military and how it shows weakness. A really great way for me to get power when I'm depressed is to be angry and to build up walls and point and blame. And this quote really spoke to me. Sometimes this broken heart gives birth to anxiety and panic, sometimes to anger, resentment, and blame. But under the hardness of that armor, there is a tenderness of genuine sadness. This is our link with all those who have ever loved. I just think that if we kind of realize there's a link, we are all sad.
We're all pathetic in this shit.
So that's the end of this episode.
No.
We all,
Tune in next time.
But it connects us.
but yet we're wanting to say it.
Yeah.
So Eeyore over here. It doesn't matter. No, that was perfect.
That was.
I started watching the series Glow, and Mark Maron says it so subtly and beautifully all at once. And he says, we make all this room inside of ourselves for someone. And then when they're gone, that extra room is there and you
still
don't know what to
there.
do with it. And
Yeah.
and so whether it's a child, whether it's a significant other, whether it's a parent, we have voids in us and it is part of the human experience. But if we don't learn how to cope with those things and we don't try to cover it up or fill the void with something that's harmful or just delaying the inevitable, which is coming to terms with it, then we're just doing ourselves an injustice.
Yeah. I honestly thought you were going to say boobies when you pointed at me.
You have no lack of that in your life. We talked earlier about the stigma. You know, you're working mostly with younger people, and so you would think that the parents who are bringing them in are like totally like, yeah, we want to get them started on a good cycle now because we're all about therapy.
Right. A lot of people do, yes, which I can appreciate, yeah.
But that's not really always the case.
All
in
of it.
fact, that's pretty
No.
uncommon.
Sometimes, I mean, there are a lot. I do have to give some people credit in that there are a lot of people who do bring their kids in and are like, oh my gosh, I'm concerned this is happening. And that's great. But, I do have parents who are divorced where one parent will come in and the other parent says, I don't see anything wrong with this child. You're making a big deal. Or, things like that where I don't want to come in. I don't need to come into the therapy sessions. And a lot of my experience with kids, it's honestly family therapy is what working with kids is. And a lot of times, because it's not just the kid, it's figuring out how to help with the kids and the parents and creating a different system in the house. Even there's times where I have kids who sit there and they're all angsty teens and they're like, I don't need to be here. And my parent made me come in here. So there's even
You're going to
that
tell me I
stigma.
make Jesus cry when I yell at my mom.
Yep. Exactly. No, but I think that there is still a lot of stigma to that. And I think that there's still a lot of stigma just in general in our country. And it shows just from what Olivia was saying that while you're in the services, you're weak if you go get this. And so then how do you expect people to go and get help when they have that type of mindset? It's really sad. And so I think that if more people were open-minded to the fact that, mental health isn't about us judging, mental health isn't about us trying to label anybody. It's about walking through it. It's about being there with everybody as they go through their trauma, as they go through their depression, to help give them tools to use. Unfortunately, therapy is not like a magic wand where one session in you're fixed. It'd be cool, but that's not how that works, And so I think that a lot of people will get frustrated by that with therapy. And so they'll say like, it's been a few sessions, my kid's not different. And it's like, well, you have a really different view of what mental health is then, don't you? It's a lot of that too.
Therapy is great, and I feel like a lot of people need to be in it. But let's say you go once a month or whatever it might be. That's not everything. You got to work on yourself. The thing that has gotten me through some of the hardest times is finding those people who will wade in those waters with you. So when they ask how you doing, they actually want to know. The guy at the water cooler does not. Mm-hmm. The guy on the Zoom call, your client on the Zoom call does not. In fact, you just lost that client.
You really want to know how my weekend was? Do you? No.
I have been blessed with amazing people who sit at this table every week and go there with me. And, you guys haven't charged me for a single minute of therapy, which is fantastic. To me, it's finding those people. But not one of those things is in and of itself going to fix your problems. And we all have them. I mean, it's a human experience.
It is.
In fact, if life was nothing but good, would there be good?
Ooh, yeah, that's a deep one.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to get too deep right at the end. Okay.
For those who are blessed to be in the company of someone who may be going through something, and that person who's going through something expresses that they're going through something, how can those that are with that person help? Meaning, like, sometimes I may not know exactly how to respond. Like, you tell me what you're going through and everything.
Read The Gift to Listen, The Courage to Hear by Carl Jackson.
He better sponsor us.
So one thing that I've learned that has been a really good thing is to just listen and ask that person what they need. I think most people just want to know that someone cares and just wants to hear what they have to say. They don't necessarily need advice, and I think that that's a really powerful thing when you can actually just sit and listen. So Matt, you're probably right. That book probably does.
It actually talks to that specifically.
Oh, wow. So I've been very, very blessed to have a very, very solid rock, friend, companion. I mean, one thing he has taught me in all of this is that I have to be true to me. It all boils back to being a subject matter expert of yourself. He taught me to be true to me. When I was laying on a gurney and I had already tried, I took all the pills that I could possibly take. And I was laying on a gurney and he said to me, how much of you wants to live? And I lied and I said 5%. Because in truth, only 0.98% of me wanted to live at that moment. And he looked at me and said, let's go fight for that 5. And he told me that I was worth that 5. That fucking friend in that moment changed my life. And I don't know who I can be for a person in that moment. That person myself is always, always rooted in God. But I didn't know who I was on this earth until I met a person that was able to reflect it. LaJohn Woods.
The Black Jesus. You guys have such a beautiful friendship and relationship, and I don't think there's
My
anything
homie.
kinder you can say about someone, but what I'll say is you blessed us today with your story and your honesty.
Really?
Yes.
Beautiful story. Thank you so much, Olivia.
Thank you
that's
so
awesome.
much.
I'm grateful that I got to listen to Olivia's story today. I'm grateful to be here and talk about mental health. And I just hope that people are more open to the mental health experience and recognizing those little triggers, recognizing those little pieces of themselves where, hey, maybe I do need someone outside of my immediate worldview to kind of help me to wade through this and know that I'm not going to go in there and be judged, know that I'm not going to go in and get my head shrunk. And so I hope that, people can get that out of this today. That's my last thought.
This episode has been the crux of everything. We talked about trying to heal the divide, trying to bridge the gap. Man, if we all focused on ourselves in a positive way a little bit, there wouldn't be so much hate out there. I hate all Republicans. I hate all Democrats. I hate this group of people. That is a life sentence of frustration, anxiety, stress, and it will all come across on the physical side too. Why would you put yourself through that? We're in the fog. We didn't realize there is a clearing.
Yeah,
Life is the fog.
exactly.
And knowledge is the clearing.
Once again, thank you so much, Olivia Queener, for being here. Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you.
And this was awesome.
It was awesome.
Remember, we're all just trying to make it through.
Exactly.
Let's just have some compassion. Yeah.
And when all else fails, boobies.
Thank you again to our musical guest, Parker Silzer. You can check him out on Instagram at Parker_IV because he's the fourth. And you can visit his website at parkersilzer.com.
What did you think of this episode? Let us know by giving us a rating and a subscription. Even if it's a hate subscription, we'll know.
Of getting drawn into another fight, but did it have to be Valentine's Day? Now I can see that we're not alike. I knew it was the end, but I thought it might not have to be on Valentine's Day.
We just went there. Now you can go to Instagram at the Going There Podcast, Facebook at Going There Podcast, or email us at goingtherepodcast@gmail.com.
This podcast is made possible by its hosts and Frame One Media in association with Lindsay Baker, Tyler Kubisti, Michael Madgar, Joe Calley, and Bobby Thomas.